Hey everybody, it's Chris Burfield, and I've got Dr. Tabor Smith here with me tonight on this Google Hangout. And the reason why I brought Tabor on is because I was talking to Tabor earlier today. I was sitting in the parking lot of Starbucks, and we were having a conversation, and he was telling me about an incident, I guess, that happened on Facebook. And it was somebody that left a comment on his Facebook feed, and he responded to it. And he said, man, he goes, I responded to it, and like afterwards I was like, I can't believe I just said that. And he said, Chris, I've been listening to the Jim Sigafoose audios and watching some of the videos, and I've been doing this for the last few weeks thanks to Dr. Carrie Sigafoose putting together the Sig Talks podcast. He said, I've been listening to that, but I've been listening to some of the audios as well. And I feel like Dr. Sigafoose and his teachings are making me a better chiropractor. And he said, I've been doing this chiropractic thing now for 7 years, and I'm just now starting to get it. Or he's just now got it, I guess, And Tabor, I thought, first of all, I just want to say thanks for being on this hangout tonight. I know you just got back from dinner with your family. You could still be spending time with them, but you're here because I asked you to be, and that means a lot to me, because what he told me, guys and girls, I was like, dude, that's absolutely amazing. Would you mind doing a quick Google Hangout tonight and just tell everybody what you just told me over the phone? He's like, yeah, absolutely. So, Tabor, thanks for being here, man, and sharing this. But would you tell everybody what we talked about earlier today?
Sure, absolutely. It's an absolute honor to be here. And again, thank you for helping Carrie Sigafoose, Patsy Sigafoose resurrect these audios and videos, dude. They are absolutely amazing, and they are life-changing. And I've been submerging myself in these audios and videos over the last 2 weeks, listening to hours and hours of them. And I'll tell you, just like you mentioned, that Facebook comment, as chiropractors, at least I do, I'm sure all the other chiropractors out there too, get messages, Facebook messages from your patients asking you, all of these questions about all these different types of symptoms. And usually, I have been guilty of just spending hours trying to answer these questions on Facebook. We get into all these symptoms. Well, this patient showed up with this symptom or this symptom, and I start looking up their symptoms and seeing how I can help them with that symptom. But lately, being submerged in Dr. Jim's teachings and the principle of chiropractic, it's not only, I'll read this question and this answer in just a second. It's not only helped me answer these questions, but it's changed me in my practice. I'm giving more focused adjustments, more powerful adjustments. I'm speaking the principle even when it's like it's coming from a subconscious place, not from the edge of my mind, not an educated place, but an innate place. I had my dinner with the doc last night. We do a dinner workshops the first Monday of every month, and I'm usually pretty strict with sticking to my script, quote unquote, or what I say during my dinner workshops. And last night I broke free from it, and chiropractic principles started coming out, and it was powerful, and patients started standing up and giving their testimonies unsolicited without me asking them, because it was coming from a true place of sincerity. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I got this Facebook question because we had this amazing testimony of this young lady in her 20s who had really good results in our office. She had celiac disease and lupus, and she was unable to even function very well from day to day. And then through chiropractic, she's been in our office for a couple of years now. It's completely changed her life. She has a full-time job doing what she loves now. And she wrote this long testimony all about her experience. So I posted that to Facebook, and I got some questions about how I could help these people. And one young lady asked me, she said, I saw your post about the young lady with celiac disease and lupus, and I was wondering, what information can you give me? I'm going to read this to you, Chris, because I don't want to mess it up. She says, I was wondering what information you can give me about chiropractors and how they can help me with my PCOS, which honestly, I don't even know what that is. Because normally I would have went and looked that up and tried to figure it out, and I felt bad that I didn't know what that abbreviation was, right? And hypothyroidism is what she wants help with. And instead of running to the medical dictionary to go look up all of these things and pulling all of these natural health encyclopedias out to see what I could do to help her, you know, this is what I said. I said, hi, you know, that's a great question. The answer to that is that I never treated that young lady's celiac disease or her lupus. I found that she had subluxation, or misalignment in her spine that was putting pressure on her nerves, keeping her body from healing and functioning properly. So when I corrected her body, when I corrected that subluxation, it allowed her body to heal and function better, and she is now able to feel better and do more. And I said that's the same approach we would take with your PCOS or hypothyroidism or any disease that you can name. Because your nervous system controls every function of your body, every organ, including all healing in the body. If there's pressure or irritation in your nervous system, there's no way your body can function properly. I'd recommend you get a checkup with a chiropractor to see what condition and alignment your spine is in. In some cases, we can even tell directly what organs will be affected. For example, nerves from the mid-back go directly to your thyroid. If your neck is subluxated, it will affect the function of your thyroid. So I said, I hope that makes sense, and feel free to ask any questions. And basically, she wrote me back and said, that's absolutely wonderful. That makes perfect sense. She's in Germany, stationed at a base in Germany, and they know of a chiropractor there, right outside the base, and she was going to go get checked for subluxation. And
that's awesome.
You know, I wrote that, and it came from a place of I just answered the question because I knew the answer. But then later, as I was telling you, Chris, when I looked back, I looked at that answer again, and I said, holy cow. That was me, you know, that came from me, and I contribute that, and the reason that was able to come from me is because I was constantly putting the principle of those chiropractic audios, Dr. Jim Sigafoose, I was putting that in my system, and what we put in the system comes out of the system. So
right.
I want to encourage people out there to get Dr. Jim's teachings, his videos, his audios, because they are absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, and I know we talked a little bit about this before in our pre-conversation before we started this hangout, is that chiropractic has some core values. It's got some principles that it abides by. Chiropractic doesn't have a philosophy; it is a philosophy.
Right.
And when you hold true to those principles and you stick to the core values, you don't have to waver off into Never Never Land. You know what I mean? In order to answer a patient's question or to help them, you just always go back to those core values, those principles, that philosophy, and that's one of the things that you get from Dr. Sigafoose's teachings, is that it's the same core stuff, always told in a different manner, a different way, and there's they didn't call him Sigafoose the Great for nothing. You know what I mean? He was an amazing educator. Go ahead.
No, absolutely. And just like Sigafoose says in that the first video of what is that called? The summit or the peak or the
Higher Grounds?
Yes, Higher Grounds. Yes, that first video there. He talks about Deepak Chopra. He talks about those guys, they're just teaching the principle. They're medical doctors, but they're teaching the principle, and they're drawing a crowd because they're teaching a principle. And so I think a lot of chiropractors are turned off because we call it the chiropractic principle. But really, I mean, you could just call it the principle. It's just nature. It's life. It's information does flow from above down, inside out, from the brain that sustains life and flows life through the nerves to every organ, cell, and tissue in the body. And I loved how Dr. Jim Sigafoose put it. He was talking about let's say someone who is paralyzed, the reason why they're paralyzed is because life from the brain is not getting to those areas of the body anymore. And so that, on an even smaller level, when people are subluxated and there's pressure on the nerve, there's literally life being choked off to areas of the body. And so every time we give an adjustment, it's powerful because it's releasing life to go back and flow through the body. And I don't know, that's just made me a better chiropractor because it's made me focus on that and have that intent every time I adjust people now.
Right. It's a simple truth, but that's the thing with truth. Truth is simple. Right. And when you try to make truth complicated, is when people get confused and they say chiropractic doesn't work,
Right.
and they run off to the medical doctor somewhere, right? So,
Right.
but yeah, that's one of the things. Like, I mean, because obviously, you know, helping to quote unquote resurrect all of this information that's in DVD and VHS and putting it all into digital file formats and cassette tapes, dude. Like, you know, mountains and mountains of cassette tapes. I've had an opportunity to listen to this stuff, and you know, I've heard Dr. Sigafoose speak before at seminars. I've never actually purchased one of his products. And now I'm like sitting here wondering, like, why did I never purchase one of these? Why did I never purchase a DVD set or a CD set? Because this stuff is just absolutely amazing. And like you told me before, when you listen to it, it does something to you inside. You know, it fills that gap. You know, like I know there might be some chiropractors out there that are, you know, listening to this that maybe feel like they've lost their purpose a little bit, or they're feeling burned out. Well, it's because you're not immersing yourself in this type of stuff on a daily basis. I mean, look what it's done for you over the last few weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if it's, you call it fate or blind luck, but I'm blessed that I came across it, that I took action, and that I started listening to it because, you know, there's some chiropractors out there, I don't know if they don't get the opportunity or they don't take the opportunity, but I would hate to go all the way through practice and not get this, not hear this, and not get this and really understand this. That would be a tragedy.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and I don't know if I told you this, Tabor, but there was a friend of mine who graduated from Parker in 2014, and I was telling him about like all this stuff being here with, you know, man, it's like, you know, this is crazy. Like all of James Sigafoose's stuff is like at my house, like all of his intellectual property, all his DVDs, his cassette tapes, his VHS tapes.
I know, it's like he's famous.
What's that?
He's famous to us.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm telling him all this, and he's like, "Oh wow, dude, yeah, that's cool, that's cool." And I was like, "Man, well, I said, you know that he passed away last year, right?" And he was like, "Oh, he did?" And I was like, "Yeah, man." I said, like, you know, like I think it was like in July he passed. He's like, "Oh, he's so young." And I was like, "He was like 83 or something." And he goes, "Oh, well, isn't Jim Sigafoose that real young guy that talks philosophy all the time?" I think he thought Jim Sigafoose was Billy DeMoss. I'm not sure, but I was just like, wow, man, like this, like, he doesn't even know who that is. So, you know, bringing this stuff back to life, man, it gives these young chiropractors that are fresh out of school or are in school and they're about to graduate or they're just in school, gives them an opportunity to hear the principle taught the way it should be taught.
It's like BJ who? It's like...
Yeah, for real, I know.
BJ who? I never heard of it.
It kind of blows you.
It does.
Well, cool, man. Well, hey, I appreciate you coming on, and I appreciate you sharing all that. Really super cool story just to see how it's affecting you in practice, because, you know, whether you've got Jim Sigafoose stuff already or you've never owned anything of his, you know, this stuff that we're offering up on this go-around of the relaunch of the website is just, it's just hands down some of the best stuff that Sigafoose has. You know, 10 hours with Sigafoose, which, you know, Tabor, what they did is I talked to Patsy Sigafoose and Carrie, obviously, and they wired Dr. Sig up, and when he was somewhere in the world giving a seminar, and they recorded that series over a 30-year time span.
Really?
So, yeah, man. So the audios that you're hearing, some of them are 30 years, like even older than that, because they did this over a 30-year time span. So Patsy said that they wired him up, and he was like, "Here we go again," you know.
Wow.
And, it's just real cool to, you know, to think about that, you know. And the Higher Grounds series is a DVD series, which is now in digital format. It's in video. It's all online. You can instantly access it. But it's a seminar for chiropractors that It's a six video set. Each one is anywhere from 40 minutes to an hour long, but it's a seminar that you can do in your office, that you can watch in your office without actually having to travel to a seminar.
Right.
So, pretty cool stuff to be able to, sit down with your staff and actually have your staff watch that and get educated on the principle and what it takes to run a high volume practice.
Dude, one of the things I love about that Higher Ground video is how every once in a while he'll stop and tell a story or a testimonial about a patient in his office, and he was talking, and he's talking to a crowd of chiropractors, and he's talking about the subluxation, how correcting it restores life, and he's like, who would this not benefit, and then somebody in the crowd says, dead person, and Sigafoose says, well, let me tell you a story about that. He said a guy had drowned, and everybody left him for dead, and they were waiting for people to come get him, and he thought he'd sneak over there and adjust him, and he popped him and hit his atlas, and that guy started choking and coughing, and he goes, that guy turned around and got on me before I could get out of the way, and he said, I'm trying to back up, and that guy's all over me, coughing, and oh man, I was cracking up. But I love those stories and those real life testimonies. He's had some amazing miracles happen in his office, and he tells you about them. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and I think that type of stuff too, Tabor, it's needed. We need more chiropractors that are more on purpose. And you and I talked a little bit about this earlier in our pre-conversation, that I have a chiropractor friend of mine, actually a client, and there were two twin babies, preemies, that were born in the hospital. They were on oxygen, and the parents invited him to come down to the hospital and adjust those infants. And he went down and he adjusted them, and within 2 days, those infants were off their oxygen and breathing on their own, right? So I shared that story on Facebook, and I had two chiropractors immediately come in. The first one said, well, did he have permission to be in the hospital? And the other one was like, well, how did the hospital feel about him performing those therapeutic therapies or whatever, And, dude, here's the thing. Purpose always supersedes permission.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't need permission when you have a purpose.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's like, do chiropractors went to jail? Some of them even died in jail for this principle.
Yeah.
And you have too much of that in the profession today, where people are afraid to give a chiropractic adjustment because they feel they might not have permission to do it. And that's a very sad state of affairs. And stuff like this, and hearing those types of stories, and hearing Dr. Jim, did he have permission to go adjust that dead person?
Right.
It's the coroner thing. What would the police report say? You know what I mean? No, he went over there, freaking adjusted him, and the man came back to life.
Well, he told a story about a football player, NFL football player, that got hit so hard, and after he got hit, and his spine was shifted so hard that it began to shut down his pancreas, and he developed diabetes, and so he got kicked off the team. They cut him from the team after he got diabetes, and he was selling tape or selling some kind of therapy ball or something door to door, and he came into his office, and Dr. Sigafoose said, I told him, I don't need none of your stuff, but I want to adjust you. And he adjusted him. He goes, I didn't do no exam. I didn't do any tests. I didn't get him back here for 30 minutes. He said, I just adjusted him. And I never saw him again for 6 weeks. And then 6 weeks later, he came back into my office. He told me I had a checkup, and I have no diabetes anymore. And I believe it's because of this adjustment that you gave me.
Wow.
So he didn't mess around with all the. I'm not saying you shouldn't do exams, or whatever you need to do in your office, but that wasn't his purpose. His purpose was to adjust the subluxation and remove it, and that's when he saw the results that he saw.
Yeah, exactly. Like the guy on the beach, right? Guy's laying. Everybody assumes dead on the beach. Didn't take an X-ray of him. Didn't do anything like that. Didn't do a surface EMG. Didn't do a thermal scan. He adjusted him because he had a purpose.
Yep, absolutely. Because he believed a miracle could happen.
Yep. Well, cool. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate you again taking time. I know we could probably go on about this forever, but seriously, I really thank you and for sharing that. So if you haven't purchased any of the Sigafoose products, you have until Thursday at midnight to save $300 on the combo pack and get $1,250 in free Sigafoose bonuses when you purchase that combo pack. So hope you guys found some value in this, and I hope we put a smile on your face tonight and then instilled some purpose back into you and maybe lit a little fire under your ass. So in the meantime, keep saving lives.